Hi all, as you can see, it's a rainy day. It seemed like the rainy season wasn't going to be too rainy this year, and then the weather decided to catch up and really pour down. I always love reading when it's raining outside, so today, while I head to Ilsan for my radio show with EBS Power English, I thought along the way I'd introduce 4 books that have stayed in my mind long after I read the final page. The last book I'll talk about today is my most favorite book ever, but I'm going to make y'all wait until the end to find out. While I introduce these books, if there are any books you really love that you would like to recommend to me, I would love for you to tell me in the comments below. The first book is a shorter Korean novel titled Almond by Won Pyung-sun. I've only read this in Korean, but it is quite popular abroad, so I'm sure the English translation must be good as well. It follows a boy named Yoonjae, who has a condition in his brain where he doesn't feel certain emotions like fear and empathy. This causes him to have difficulty understanding people and the way they interact socially, especially when things aren't expressed explicitly to him. However, there are people in his life that he knows he cares for, so he works his hardest to understand their emotions and show that he cares in ways that people without his condition will understand. Living in a country like Korea, which has a culture very different from the one I was born and raised in, this book reminds me that I don't have to completely understand people in order to have a good relationship with them. And that sometimes it's the effort put towards trying to understand that is more meaningful than the understanding in and of itself. Next, there's Cersei by Madeline Miller. It's a retelling of the story of Cersei, who was a lesser goddess in Greek mythology. She's not very important among the Greek gods and finds herself banished to a desert island as punishment for some forbidden magic she uses. Miller's use of prose to evoke heart-wrenching longing is exquisite, but equally compelling is Cersei's peculiar position she is stuck in. She is powerful and immortal, but can only interact with frail and mortal humans. Why would she fall in love with a human when they will soon pass away and she's destined to live on for eternity? This book made me think about the value and depth you can find in things, even when you know they are temporary. Is a friendship or romantic relationship any less meaningful if you know it can't last forever? Having moved countries several times in my life, that's a situation I've found myself in quite often. But I've never regretted the times that I've allowed myself to create deep, if unfortunately short, relationships with people. The third book is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. It's a short book about a middle-aged woman named Keiko, whose opinions and ambitions in life are different from most in her society, but she learns how to carve out a small space for herself and has a fulfilling life working in a Japanese convenience store. There was something quite beautiful about the small world Keiko was able to create for herself, finding satisfaction in a job that is often looked down upon in society. This book reminded me that there's nothing wrong with dreams being small instead of big. Society pushes us to be more ambitious, achieve more, and that's perfectly fine if that's what you want out of life. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with pursuing a small life if it makes you happy. One of the most charming parts of this book is how well Murata was able to capture the atmosphere of a Japanese convenience store. Having lived in Japan for 3.5 years, I've spent a lot of time in konbini, and the book instantly took me back there with all of the sights and sounds Keiko experiences every day. The final book I wanted to talk about today is The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, and it is my absolute favorite book. I've read it in English, Korean, and Japanese, and it's probably the book that I've read the most in my life. It's the story of a poor farmer named Wang Lung who lives in China just as more Western ideas and technologies start floating in. His life is difficult, but he and his wife Olan are hard workers that survive every disaster that comes their way, and they even become quite rich later in life. But it's not exactly a happy ending. I think that Buck does a masterful job of making her character someone you care for deeply, especially in the beginning. But there are mistakes and character flaws that Wang Lung makes that I, as a reader, am unable to forgive him for. As Wang grows wealthier in the second half of the book, he adopts some less than virtuous aspects to his character, and his family life becomes more complex and discordant. I've always read this book as a parable not only for the value of perseverance and hard work, but also the need for gratitude when you're blessed with good people in your life. I don't want to spoil anything, but my heart is absolutely crushed by the end of this book with how things turn out with his sons and especially with his wife Olan. These are just a few books whose ideas, emotions, and imagery have stuck with me in life. It's always great to find books that linger in the mind well past when you've already put them down. I hope you are all staying comfortable and dry as we finish up the rainy season and head into full-blown Korean summer, and I wish you all the best.